part 2 of our top 20 NCAA offenses going into the tournament according to the KenPom rankings. Like we went over in our previous video of 11 through 20 offenses. Me and Johnny Lloyd, Brett and Johnny Lloyd here at Lock Nation Sports, we have discovered that only one out of the last 21 years has there been an offense outside of the top 20 that's won the national championship. So we've covered in our previous video the 11 through 20 top offenses according to the KenPom rankings. Now we're on to 1 through 10. We're going to start down from 10 and count down to 1. All right, so start things off here, Johnny Lloyd. Gonzaga, not the same expectations as previous years here. Does that help Gonzaga this year? Does it hurt them this year? Does this team have a chance to win the national championship?
I think it helps them not to win a national title, but it helps them when they fall flat. People aren't going to judge them as hard. I mean, I think Graham Mike's a stud. They got a lot of people back from teams that have, been in the dance before, right? You got Anton Watson, Nolan Hickman, Ryan Nembhard. They've all been in the big dance before. They've felt the pressure of playing for Gonzaga and being a 1 seed or a 2 seed for some of those years. They've kind of been a wave for me. Like I kind of wrote them off early. I mean, when they came out a little bit flat, I'm thinking, hey, they don't got the mustache man Drew Timme on the team anymore. Yeah. They're just not the same kind of team.
Yeah.
And then when they lost to, I think it was Santa Clara, and then they lost to St. Mary's, where I think they were even getting points versus St. Mary's, and that was kind of a shocker. You're like, wait, like I know some of those spreads in recent years have been close, but for St. Mary's, the Gales to be laying points, I was a little bit shocked there. They're starting to reel me back in, though. They've closed out. Yeah, is their conference absolutely horrific? Yes, they need to move to a big boy conference eventually. But I think they won 9 straight before this video is run. They're trending in the right direction. They'll probably contend for the WAC championship. And
the WAC.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm a believer for them to win it all, but they definitely got some pieces to scare you.
Yeah. And just piggybacking on what you're saying, I just think like low expectations, who are they going to disappoint this year? You know what I mean? And the good thing for that is I think low expectations, if they do go out early, Mark Few, like there's just less of a chance he gets a second DUI based off of not having to, really deal with the emotions of that upset and that heartbreak. So, what's crazy? I've seen a crazy stat. So the last 8 champions, NCAA tournament champions, there hasn't been one team that had one player that averages over 20 points. And obviously Drew Timme was averaging 20 plus, a game. And it's crazy sometimes, like it's hard to imagine you lose a player like that. And then you could even be remotely the same team the following year. But in this situation, like it felt like the last couple of years, if you took Drew Timme out of the game for Gonzaga, like it was like game over. I mean, I know that one year they had Chet Holmgren, but he's, I don't think he was fully developed at that point in time. And they took him out of the game the last couple big games in the tournament. And I kind of just think it slowed them down. Now, if you take away the expectations and you take away, a one guy offense and you actually have some players that, can swing it around a little bit, I think they could be a dangerous team. And like you said, I mean, you were surprised they were giving points. St. Mary's was giving them points or whatever, and they beat the piss out of St. Mary's the last game in their own building. And they also have a win at Kentucky too. And we'll get into it a little later, but like I love Kentucky this year. I think their offense is unreal. And I think Gonzaga, like you said, peaking at the right time here. 9 straight wins. They're a hot team right now. And then we'll see how they play in this conference tourney coming up. But it's not a team people are going to be excited to play, I think, put it that way. So the coaching pedigree is there. They got some good players, some good athletes. I think they could surprise the people this year, especially with the low expectations, like we said. So, all right. So Gonzaga, I think we're both decently high enough on them. And
definitely
then the
point is you don't want to see them as your 4 seed. You know what I mean? They're definitely a scary team to see in your region. So if you're Alabama, you're like, no, we don't need Gonzaga this year.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, do I think they can win it all, though? I think they would be they'd have to have a lot of things go their way to really get there and bring it home. But so coming up next, we have BYU. Have you watched much BYU? I did watch the game last night against Iowa State. Did you get a chance to tune into that?
I did not tune into that one, but the Mormons, they're steady. You know what I mean? I've kind of watched a few games earlier this season where they played Kansas, I believe, and then watched another game where they played Baylor. In both games, they looked tough. You know what I mean? They played really good defense. They did a lot of things that Mormons would do. Play very hard. They run fast, and they don't seem to have any prolific scorers. They got Jackson Robinson averaging 13.8 points per game. He can ball. Spencer Johnson at guard. He's also, pretty athletic and play. I think he's averaging, four assists per game. I don't know if I trust them personally. BYU's, pretty. They have obviously moved to the Big 12 and been able to compete this year, but they've been like a 5 seed many years, or a 7 seed plenty of years, and they always seem to lose in the first round.
Yeah, so I did watch the game last night, and they should have won that game. I don't think they scored a point for 4.5 minutes from like the 5.5 minute mark on. They didn't score, and they still almost won. From what I've seen from them is like obviously like they lack the athleticism that a lot of other teams have. Just it's BYU, so I mean, what do you expect there? But they do move the ball really well. They have some good perimeter shooting. But I wasn't impressed at all. They have some clumsy big men on that team, and I just don't think they have the ability. I wouldn't even consider them at all to even have a chance to win it all. But they're not a bad basketball team, but just not a team that I could see, bringing it home. And I think sounds like we agree there. All right. So
fun fact there, they've gotten bounced in the first round in the last 3 years.
No shit.
Now that Zach Wilson has been canned from the Jets, he might be in attendance, for their round 1 matchup possibly. So if your mom's going, buckle up.
I will make sure she's on a leash if she is at the game somehow, some way, for their first round there, for BYU. So next one, interesting here. So this is Kentucky. Talk to me about Kentucky. I think we're both pretty high on Kentucky, and I think their offense speaks for themselves. Personally, I've been on them since the preseason as well. I watched their blue and white game before the season even started, and I was like, my God, this team has some absolute offense. I've never seen shot making like on their levels across the board for a team like I've seen from Kentucky. And you got a guy like Reed Shepherd coming off the bench who, I mean, that guy he'd be a starter on any team in the country. And that's the kind of like luxury you have as a bench piece. It's pretty wild to imagine. So Kentucky, obviously they could score the hell out of the basketball. Does the defense concern you for a chance to win the net?
No, I mean, I think offense wins championships unless you got a super aggressive defensive team like Houston. Every once in a while you might get a team that plays really good team ball like Virginia did that one year, but they're usually anomalies. You got to be able to score the ball in big games, and they can do that. Antonio Reeves, 20 points per game. Does that scare you though, from your stat earlier, that if you score over 20
I don't think it does, because I think they have 4 guys on the team that can score 20 a game. So it's not like they're not dependent on that. It's just I think it's a shot count. If he's open, he's going to shoot because he makes them, and why wouldn't you want him to shoot? So I think if he has a bad night, I think there's 3 or 4 other guys that can pick him up. It doesn't really concern me. I think Kentucky at their best can beat any team in the nation, and it wouldn't surprise me. But also, I did see a concerning stat. So FanDuel has a ridiculously heavy futures liability on Kentucky. I think it's like 35% of the entire handles on Kentucky. And you know what that means, especially a team that when they had to start to fall a little bit in the middle of the season, they were up to like 65-1. And I know we were talking about it one night. I told you to put a little bit on them at that number because it was just insane for a team with that caliber of offense to be, paying out 65-1. But I just can't imagine that FanDuel doesn't know what they're doing, and they don't see them like, they're going to slip up one of these games. It just feels like it. I mean, but at the same time, like I will not be rushing to any window to bet against them in any individual matchup for the entire tournament. I will tell you that. So I think they can beat anybody, but they also can lose to a questionable team if things went the wrong way.
15 versus 2, 2 years ago, I believe, or maybe even was it last year? That was 2 years ago. They lost to St. Pete. St. Petersburg, I believe.
Out Purdue. I think I had I had Purdue or Kentucky in like all of my brackets making it, and the Peacocks took them out by weekend 1 for me. So that was an enjoyable experience for my brackets. Wasn't something my most proud moments, I'll tell you that.
They got 3 dudes shooting over 45% from 3 in conference play. But like you said, you got that stat, 20 points for Antonio Reeves. You might want to have him. Last game of the season, the regular season, is Saturday for them. I might start him and have him go about 1 for 15 just to get back down under that 19 points per game threshold.
Bring him back down to earth. He's shooting too good. Yeah. Got to bring him back down. Okay,
Coach
cool.
Calipari, you're gonna dial it up.
Yeah, they're due too. He hasn't made noise in a while. It feels like Coach Cal. So we'll see how it goes. All right, up next we have the Duke Blue Devils. What do you think about Duke?
I mean, I'm hoping Dickie V's in attendance, dude. You know what I mean? He invented the Dukies, diaper dandies. That was all built for Duke. I think they can make some noise this year. They got five players scoring over 10 points per game. We've seen Jared McCain. He's really come on of late and looked like, an absolute stud scoring the ball. They obviously got Filipowski, who, everyone knows from watching ESPN. He's a very good big man, but like Jeremy Roach has been there. Mark Mitchell, Tyrese Proctor. They got a lot of guys that have experience. And I think they could be dangerous, but you just never know when it comes to March Madness. Duke always has a way of, people start penciling them in, Duke, going up the chain. And sometimes they make it far. I mean, they've won the Natty a couple times, and then obviously last year or 2 years ago they lost to UNC in the Final Four, I believe. So like they can make it far, but they also have years where 15 versus 2, watch out.
Yeah, I hear you. The thing that scares me at Duke, the interior defense is something that scared me. I mean, outside of Filipowski, I mean, who do they really got as far as big men go? And if they run into the wrong matchup, like say they had to face a guy like Zach Edey, I think Edey could score as much as he wanted to against a team like that. And I feel like you need to have some sort of interior protection to win 6 straight games. So I mean, Duke's a team that they're going to be a sexy, popular pick just because it's Duke. They always are. I just don't see a scenario where they win 6 straight. I tossed them pretty much for as far as it goes for me. And they could win a couple games, like you said, but just don't see it. I mean, like the guards, you got to like Proctor and Roach, but other than that, it's just, Filipowski. I mean, God forbid somebody storms the court. He might, what's going to happen? He's going to break down into a million pieces, and he might trip on a water bottle on the way off the first game on Thursday. So yeah. Not really a big fan of Duke. I never am. I mean, even when they win it all, I'm against them. So it's just the way it goes. It's just I'm a Duke hater. Put it that
Duke
way.
hater. All right, fair enough. I mean, they got a good team.
The thing that scares me, I mean, they do have a good team, and they do have the 22nd ranked defense as well. And so a team in 7th overall offense, top 22 defense. I mean, obviously you got to give them a look at least. You can't just skim right over them. So we'll see how it goes.
This last month, they've been playing unbelievable defense.
Like, yeah, they play. That's a big game Saturday. What they play UNC Saturday, right?
Yeah, in Duke, so they'll have a good chance at revenge there. The Cameron Crazies, all 10,000 of them are going to be going absolutely nuts. Yeah. So I think Duke will probably be laying at least 5 that game. I haven't looked at the spread, but I'm assuming they got to be laying a handful.
Yeah, I mean, you would just assume so, being at their home. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how that game goes. I think the winner of that's going to be feeling pretty good going into the the ACC tournament there. All right, up next, Arizona. So Arizona's a team that is. I mean, some days they look like they can beat anybody, and then some days it just looks like a team that doesn't have much like cohesion to me. I don't know what it is. How do you feel about Caleb Love? Obviously, he's a scorer. How do you feel about him leading the team there over in Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, he's great, but I mean, I thought he was good for UNC last year, and they got bounced early, I believe. So, I mean, I don't think this team's any better than UNC was last year going into the dance. I mean, Arizona, they always scare me because they have made a few runs over the years, but they're definitely not trusted to win it all. Like that's not happening. Yeah. You figure last year they got stunned by Princeton. You know what I mean? Princeton, and if you look at those stats, like I think Princeton was 184th in scoring, and versus Arizona, I think they were in the top 20 rankings that you have just like this year. So I mean, like that was an anomaly. And then Princeton did the same thing to another team that was also like in the top 10. I think it was, who else did they stun? They beat Missouri, who was 26th.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I do think Arizona is very good team. Caleb Love's good, Ballow's good. They got some size, which they always do. It'll be interesting to see though how things shake out in the future with the Pac-12 being gone. Just to kind of see what basketball looks like going forward. Because right now, I mean, I think the Pac-12 is awful.
Yeah, it's rough. So it's been a rough.
They might have some inflated wins or whatnot. Like I know, like if you look at their schedule, Arizona's beaten some. They've beaten some so-so teams. They have a couple big wins. They usually play a pretty good non-conference schedule. And they can shoot the three pretty well. So think they're okay, but I'm not a believer.
Yeah, I would definitely agree when I say like I don't think they really could win it all. I mean, Caleb Love to me is a guy like he could make you a 40-foot three, and then he's going to make three bad plays in a row. He'll take three bad shots. He could shoot you in a game. He could shoot you out of a game. And to me, like, I just don't trust him leading the offense. I mean, obviously he could score the ball, but I mean, he just takes some questionable shots. The losing the Princeton thing scares me because you know they're going to be hungry. But I mean, as far as like Balo goes, he's clumsy. I do like the Larson kid. I think he's going to be, a top 15, 20 pick in the NBA. Great wing player. But as far as a team that can win it all, I don't see it really. Unless Caleb Love just, shoots 60, 65% from the floor in each of his games and really, puts the team on his back. That's kind of a thing that I would be concerned about going against Zona. But like I said, like he could also shoot you out of a game as well, which scares me. So, all right. So up next, Baylor. How do you feel about Baylor?
I love them. I think that they're a team that's just built for March. Jalen Bridges is a stud. They also got 6 players scoring, 10 or more points, led by Jacoby Walter. They play in the best conference in basketball, as I keep saying. I think that does matter. If you keep playing good teams, March should be easier for you, right? I think, their centers, he's probably only going to play 20 minutes a game, but Missy's a big dude. He's going to cause problems for some of those early teams that Baylor's going to get matched up with. But I also think that dude could potentially start playing more than he has in conference play when they do get to that, potential, 2-3 matchup.
Gotcha. And I like the Jalen Bridges kid as well. He's a transfer from West Virginia, so I think he brings an element to them that he's a good player. I'm so interested in that game on Saturday, Texas Tech, and we're gonna see if Baylor can win on the road and see how that looks for them. But the thing that concerns me, Baylor, 75th ranked total defense is a scary sight to see. I mean, the last couple teams we went over, Arizona was 15th. Duke was what 22nd. I mean, you're Baylor. I mean, that's 75. That's a tough defensive ranking. You know what I mean? For them to really
see. I'm not scared of it. I think you play a lot of good teams in the Big 12, so some of those stats could be inflated. I mean, half the games that Duke's playing is versus NC State and Louisville and Notre Dame, and you go down the list of teams, and it's like, you're going to have better team stats on defense. Same thing with Arizona playing Oregon State and Arizona State and these other teams that, really don't hold a candle to the Big 12.
Yeah, no, I got you, man. It definitely is, like this year, every time you turn the TV on, it feels like, the Big 12 games, the games that are getting pounded down your throat on ESPN. So they know the conference is good, and it could definitely affect the defensive rankings. I mean, you think about Arizona having a high defensive ranking against who? UCLA, USC, these teams aren't even, 1/5 of what they usually are. So I could definitely see what you mean by that. So we'll see. I mean, Baylor's a team like, they got a couple of good players. Walter's a freshman, freshman in the tourney. You never know what you get with that, but he's a great player from what I've seen. And I'll be interested to see how Baylor does this year's tournament for sure. Talk to me about UConn. So
I know you're not super high on them, but
yeah,
I mean, I just think that they're just a tough team. You know what I mean? They've had the hangover. They didn't have the hangover. They won it last year. They came back. They lost a couple big names, and they've reloaded. You know what I mean? Led by Tristan Newton. He's not the same caliber as Cardiac Kemba or the other guy that led them to a title like 4 years ago. He's not that good. He's not that elite of a scorer, but he's definitely damn good. Cam Spencer, Alex Karabin. I mean, they can ball, and they've shown that they're, very mentally tough. I love Hurley. I absolutely love him. I think he's a great coach. Could they have a slip up in March? Absolutely. But chances are, depending on their, how their bracket lines up, I like them going far, real far.
You like your coaches ready to fight the crowd like the Pacers?
I love it.
You like that? You're a fan of that? See, I think it's unprofessional. I mean, so I dug up a stat. This is crazy to me. So since 2008, not one national champion winner has made it past the Sweet 16 the following year. I know. So, I mean, what does that tell you? And to me, like, if you look at this UConn team this year compared to last year, like, I think last year's team was obviously a lot better. I mean, they lost a lot of key pieces, picked up a few, but like, I don't know, man. They're a team I can't root for. They're cocky. I don't like the Spencer kid's attitude. I mean, obviously, every time he makes a shot, he's got to talk some level of shit to somebody, which is like insane to me. They're going to be getting, they're going to be getting the best punch from every team they go against, and they better be ready for it, because there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to want to take them out, and they better play their best ball, or they're gonna struggle once they get past their first few games, I think. I mean, you can't deny, they're a good team and they can shoot the hell out of the ball. And KenPom right now has them ranked, as far as defense goes, 14th. So you look at the third offense, 14th defense, or fourth offense, 13th defense, and I mean, they're gonna be a tough out, but I think they're gonna get a nice solid punch from a good team, and it's gonna take them by surprise for sure. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, I have nothing future wise as UConn goes. I mean, if they win, they win. For me, every sport, if a team wins back to back, I'm going to lose money. I never bet a team to win a back to back. You know how hard it is. You need like a dynasty, and I just don't think UConn has that dynasty that they're ready for. That back to back. It just doesn't seem. I mean, if you're talking about weak conferences, I mean, the Big East. I mean, my God, what are we doing in the Big East? You know what I mean? Like that.
I think they got 3 really good teams, man. But yeah, they have several bad ones. But I mean, Creighton and Marquette are formidable teams.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so it's very top heavy. You got those top 3, and then after that, I mean, who's their biggest rival? Like Georgetown, and then which Georgetown? Oof. Like 3-97 over the last like 3 seasons. So it's like, if you get Marquette and Creighton and like everything else there, it's just a nightmare to me. I mean, Villanova, they're typically good. They're about as inconsistent as you could possibly imagine. So it's like,
yeah, they're done. I mean, unless Jay Wright comes out of retirement, Villanova, you pencil them out for the next 10 years. They're done.
Yeah, so we'll see, man. I don't know. I mean, obviously, they're a dangerous team. I mean, I'm not looking forward to if one of my future teams has to play them, in the Final Four or whatever. Because if I end up with a couple 1 seeds, that's when they wouldn't play them till. We'll see how it goes, man. And like I said, if a back-to-back winner happens, I'm gonna lose money in every sport, every bet I make. So it's just the way it goes. All right, so Illinois. So Illinois to me is a team that has advantages on offense, no matter who they play against. I mean, Coleman Hawkins, there's not many guys who can move like that, who can shoot like that, who are also that size. I feel like Terrence Shannon's probably maybe the most pro-ready player in the NCAA right now. I mean, him, Dalton Connect, maybe like at least, top 3 as far as pro-ready levels go in college basketball. The defense, man. I know we're talking about offense here, but you need to have at least some semblance of a defense. And right now, Illinois is 102nd, according to KenPom, on the defensive rankings. I mean, that's tough, right? In the Big Ten, we're down in the Big Ten. You're 102nd. You're 102nd in the Big Ten. You're not. Yeah, I mean, like it's not something that would give me much confidence going in the tournament. How do you feel?
Yeah, on paper they look good offensively, right? You got Shannon, Domask, and Hawkins. Yep. All of them can fill up the score sheet. I would say a couple things with them is that, their last 7 trips to the NCAA tournament, they have not made it out of the round of 32, and they've had some pretty decent teams. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do think they can score with anybody, but like you said, they are a defensive liability. And they also, the problem with their scoring is that if they were down, I think they have a hard time, making up some points. They don't have any shooter on their whole team, even if they played 5 minutes a game, that shoots over 40% from 3. Yeah. They also struggle. Their big time scorers are all shooting like about 80% from the free throw line. I mean, if I'm averaging 22 points a game, I really want that dude to be like around 90 or a little bit closer to 90 from the free throw line. So I think that if you got big free throws in like a 14 versus 3 matchup, you don't ever know if they're going to falter under that pressure. But I do think that they can score, but if the last 7 trips haven't made it out of the round of 32, and I think they were a 1 seed the one year, and 3 of the years they've lost in the first round. So I'm not putting them far in my bracket.
You're not buying it? Yeah. I don't know. I think, like I said, I mean, like if you have a couple offensive advantages, like Domask is a tough cover, Hawkins, like I said, Terrence Shannon being at the level he's at in NCAA, I think if they scheme it up correctly, I feel like they're going to have advantages against no matter who they go against. But like I said, like we're talking offense here, but you need some semblance of a defense to win. I just don't think 102nd is going to get it done. You're not going to outscore everybody. You're going to have a bad night, where you need to be able to rely on getting a stop or two. And 102nd's tough, but they are a team. I think it's not going to be a year where they go out in the first round to me, like it has been recently as far as Illinois basketball goes. So we'll see, man. I mean, can they win it all? I don't think that they can. But could they make a run? I see that it could happen. So. All right, Big Ten. Here we go. The big bad team.
Oof, I'm not a believer.
Your boy's
I'm not a believer, man. Zach
Talk to me
is
about
a force.
Purdue.
Zach Edey's a force. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Anytime you watch that game, he's going to go to the free throw line 15 times per game. He's going to be getting hacked even more than that because he's just way bigger than anybody.
Shoots well
But,
though from the foul line.
huh?
He shoots well from the foul line, which is huge, man. He gets fouled 15 times a game. He makes his free throws for the most part. He's what, 70%, something like that.
Yeah, fun stat though, right? In the last 3 years, I mean, a lot of these Purdue teams are similar, right? Like you're going to have similar pedigree. You're not getting any of the 5-star recruits going to Purdue. You're getting the same guys. You always have a big white guy. Edey was there last year as well. Obviously, he's much better this year.
He sees some horror. He's been there for 3 or 4 years. He lost to some questionable teams. Put it that way.
Yeah. So he get this, and they're in their last 3 years in March Madness, they have lost to 16 seed FDU.
Oh, I'm aware.
They lost to 15 seed St. Peter's, albeit it was in the Sweet 16. So if you're going to give them a pass to 15 seed St. Peter's, sure, you do it. I'm not. I'm not giving them a pass. And then they've also lost to 13 seed North Texas. So last 3 years, they have lost to a combined 43 ranking. I mean, you do the math, and you're going to put them in the Final Four?
Well, so to me, when you're losing to teams, their NIL like campaign funds consist of a bunch of Burger King coupons they're giving to kids. Like, come on campus, we have a BK 12 steps away from the practice facility. You can get a buy one get one Whopper, and that's what's bringing these kids in to the St. Peter's Peacocks. It's tough, man. I mean, I watched each and every one of those upsets, and it was terrible. I mean, Matt Painter, can the guy coach himself out of a plastic bag? Probably not. But you know what this feels like to me? Johnny Lloyd, this feels like Virginia 5-6 years ago.
Feels like Virginia after UMBC slaughtered them. They came all the way back. They took it on the chin. They didn't say nothing. They didn't complain. They came all the way back and they won it all. I'm not a believer though. I'm not a believer. I think that Youngstown State gets in this tournament. They're going to win the Horizon. They're going to have to get a 16 seed at this point. I don't know if Youngstown State's getting a 16 seed. They sound like a 15 to me. But if they do slip to a 16, I think choo-choo trains, they're going to run over Purdue.
There's no way. I think Purdue wins their first game by like 78. I think it's going to be like Zach Edey drops like 40 and 25. And it's just like one of those things where they're not putting any doubt into it. They're getting that out of the way, getting rid of the narrative that they can't get the monkey off their back if they lose to a team with 7 guys under 5'4". As Edey's like 7'9". I just turnover on downs in NFL is TOD. TOD in NCAA basketball, team of destiny. Purdue, baby. That's my team of this year. I'm on Purdue. I've been on them since preseason, 15-1. I think they're gonna. I think that they're going to be raising and cutting down the nets, raising the trophy, cutting down the nets. My biggest fear of Purdue is, though, just like the lack of athleticism as far as, their guards go. If they run into a team like Kentucky and they got to run around chasing them around as they're making shots, that's going to be a tough challenge for them, a team like that. But I think any regular matchups, I think that they're going to have a good chance to win. So we'll see. I mean, how I feel about Purdue.
That they're not susceptible to a FDU, a St. Peter's, or a North Texas this year. I mean, they could lose anybody. I think that run off the street here, you got the local state A high school teams taking them down.
And I think it's zero. I think it's a total 0% chance. I think they're going to win the first game. It's going to be a bloodbath, and they're just going to get that monkey off their back. And it's going to be once they get past that. I mean, obviously, as crazy as it sounds, the win is a 27-point favorite in the first game of the weekend. It's still a mental thing. And then once they get past that, it's just back to business, man. And they've been business all year. They've had the second toughest schedule out of all NCAA basketball, and they've won huge games on the road at home. They're tested. It's different this year. It just feels different. That's my take on Purdue. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm invested. So we'll see. I put my money where my mouth is. If Purdue wins, I'll be upgrading the webcam for for the videos for football season. Put it that way. So all right. So finally, it's kind of anticlimactic, but I know you like them a little bit. Talk to me about the Crimson Tide. Roll Tide, roll. What are we thinking about that?
They're the only team out of these top 20 that have 3 players that have over 60 3-pointers made on the season, so they can fill it up. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I like their coach. He's gritty. I think Mark Sears can, is an absolute baller. I think with his ball in his hand, he's kind of got that cardiac Kemba feel to me, where I think he can just take over the game time and time again. They rank 10th in possessions per game, so they're very high tempo. Their defensive stats are not great, but I mean they
Right.
do push it, and they're not
Yeah.
the. If you watch their games, they do, put some effort in on defense. It doesn't look like they're always selling it. So I think that they definitely, could make some noise. I think for me, a lot of times you really need to look at the bracket once it comes out and kind of figure out who could beat
Exactly.
them. I
Yeah.
think they're super athletic, and I don't think they're losing to like a trash team, but like, it's really going to be based on matchups for them because
Yeah.
they've obviously been vulnerable to some teams.
And going back to what I said, like, same thing, Purdue going against Kentucky, Purdue going against a team like Bama, like it just seems like they could expose the hell out of Purdue, but Purdue could also expose the hell out of them. I mean, they have no interior defense at all. I mean, Edie, he could turn into like a monster for that game and just, score 65. But I mean, Bama could also, score 125 against Purdue. So we'll see, man. I mean, like I said, that's why we're going to do a bracket breakdown, in a week and a half or whatever after Selection Sunday. And we're going to go over who we think we have some advantages as far as matchups go, who's got an easy path, who's got a tough road, and, really get into it, dive deep into the bracket. But that wraps it up for our top 20 offenses. We just did 10 all the way down to 1. We're going to have our next video here from Lock Nation Sports. It's going to be just a rundown of some of the teams we think have really strong chances to win. I mean, obviously, we've been over it a bit with our last 2 videos here, but, we're going to really break into what teams we think have a really, really strong chance and try and win it and bring home the trophy this year. So.